Adjust mic, turn it up. Okay, there we go. Alright. Hello, I'm Tan, the TanBOTC channel. And I'm going to be playing Fallout 4 for the background and doing mostly Nuke World. But I wanted to talk about, I actually wanted to do this subject with a couple of games, but I want to compare them to Skyrim and Fallout for the most part. Oh god, I hate these things. Freaking cave cricket things. But I wanted to compare them especially to Fallout and Skyrim, as Fallout and Skyrim are always called the babies RPG. And yet I'm about to show you why Cyberpunk is even more babies RPG than those games that are called babies RPG. Matter of fact, most of the time I don't even think it is an RPG. And it's not the only game I want to do this with, it's just the one game that, while I want people to realize too that they need to separate Cyberpunk the game from Cyberpunk the anime from Cyberpunk the comic books. They're not the same goddamn thing, even if they take place in the same universe. Even if they have good stories, they are still separate from the game. I don't think the game is nearly as good as they are. So to have that stuff blindside you, you need to take that and separate it completely. Same goes with any outside stuff for, of course, other games too, like Skyrim and Fallout. But the games already have enough as it is. So I'm going to mostly start off with some things, variety-based things, as well as I'm going to save the RPG mechanics for the end.
What do you need spacesuits for? I suppose there is no harm. They will protect us in the battle.
So we're going to start with the variety.
More than that for this job. Okay, I'll give you 250 caps. I'll do it. Good.
I won't ask her any further. So we're going to start with the variety first. We're going to variety in weapons, armor, and enemy variety. Then we're going to move to talking a little bit about perks, their perk trees and stuff. And then we're going to move on to talking about their world and the exploration of it. And I select that quest. Here we go. Get spacesuits. Okay. Check the map. Hold on. So, this to secure. Spacesuits. Eliminate Courser. Secure Safari. I want to secure the zones first. Alright. And I'll have to check their place for goodies later. So when it comes to variety, I want to start with weapons and armor variety. Let's start with armor. So when it comes to armor, both Fallout 4 and Skyrim, I think, also have Cyberpunk beat. A lot of the outfits, or armor as you can call them, in Cyberpunk, the only ones that I like are the only ones that are really good are probably the colored collar outfits, which they're just mainly color variants and stuff, so that's not really enough to be impressive. And then there is maybe the samurai gear, like the helmets and stuff. But that is about it. They're not even like really cool helmets. Like, they don't have those cool designs in the front. Oh. And it just kind of, like, a lot of their outfits kind of have that problem that they're either just different colored variants of the same goddamn things, or they are lacking in variety, or they have that boring factor that Tom Clancy's The Division's outfits that people complained about had, where it's just a bunch of modern, boring clothing, you know, like a suit or whatever. While Fallout has that and Skyrim's got its equivalents, there are so many goddamn armor sets, such from both, that absolutely annihilate anything that frickin' Cyberpunk would have. And a lot of the outfits kind of make you look like a whore, too. Either a man whore or a lady whore or whatever kind of whore. You look like a whore in the outfits, like, sadly. It's awful. I hate the outfits of the game. The variety is very much lacking, and it's just... I like a little bit more variety in my outfits, and I know it's meant to match the setting and the tone and stuff, but man, you could have done so much better with a cyberpunk setting. It doesn't feel like they got creative enough with it. And I'm about to show you the same problems with the enemy and weapon variety of the game. I feel like they did not get creative in a lot of departments. It is the least creative of the games. Whoa. By the way, we're level 70 now. Our goal is to get to level 90. But when it comes to it, it's just really boring clothing that I don't care about. When you got Skyrim, you think of the Daedric armor, you think of even the hide armor, or the fur armors, the armor sets that the Forsworn, the Forsworn have. You got bone armor, dragon scales, dragon bone. You got the Nightgale armor. You got the Dark Brotherhood armor sets. There's like 2, 3 of them or whatever. There's even special variants of each armor set. And then you got enchanted versions even. You got... Which place is this? Is this the Galaxy place? I don't really want to go to the Galaxy place yet. I want to go to one of these others. Let's go to that place over here. Because I don't want to go through the Galaxy place. Let's turn on a light too. And just the enemy... I'll get to the enemies in a sec. Just the variety in the armor is really got that Division, Tom Clancy's Division problem, where it's just really boring armor sets. They could have been much more creative. I would have loved to see more samurai armors. Maybe the DLC will give us more of that, but if it doesn't, that kind of sucks. I'm sure they'll give us something, but will be enough to satisfy our taste for more armor and weapon variety. I don't know. And then, you got the armor of Fallout. I haven't even talked about like Daedric armor, glass armor, ebony armor, all that kind of stuff. And there are even variants like of those than Dwarven armor. This isn't counting Creation Club or mods, by the way. I'm not counting those. If I did count them, they would still beat Cyberpunk because they have so many at this point. It is crazy to think about. Also, I do want to mention that I'll talk about it later. I'll be talking about romances / companions. Like, yeah, we'll get to that when we get closer to the RPG side of the games. So, if it's not that great there, what about Fallout 4? Well, Fallout 4 has plenty of goddamn armor sets. We don't know how many, we don't know how much that Cyberpunk will have for DLC. So far, we only know of one DLC that's coming out for Cyberpunk. So if there's DLC-wise, right now, at this point, Skyrim and Fallout 4 definitely have more than what Cyberpunk has. We're going to start out with game, what makes them better games first, and then at the end I'm going to move into the RPG elements, what makes them better RPGs. So the next category is the variety in weapon types. When it comes to weapons, hello there, Sheriff Hawk. When it comes to weapons in Cyberpunk, you got, like, say for example, you got, this is just an example, 3 types of each weapon type. Like assault rifle, SMG, sniper rifle, and whatever else there may be, shotguns or some other like melee weapons or something. Say you have 3 of each of those, even though that's not entirely true, as well as you got stuff like the mantis blades and the laser whip, which are clearly inspired by Johnny Mnemonic. At least the laser whip. I don't know about the mantis blades. And I need some XP. So when it comes to that, Fallout 4 and Skyrim like zip over those by miles in the variety of weapons, because even though there are like special types of weapons, like there's that one weapon that can talk to you and auto lock on to people. That was like the one really unique weapon I do like in Cyberpunk. There's not as many weapons like that, though. There's like 5 or so legendary weapons in almost the entire thing, where both, and I'm sure I'm wrong on that too, but it's, even if I'm wrong, I don't think it comes nearly close to how many legendary types of weapons and equipment you get in both Fallout, or just special types of weapons in general, in both Fallout 4 and Skyrim. Like, it goes overboard with it, and even the weapon types get frickin' ridiculous, just the average weapons in the game. When it comes to Cyberpunk, a lot of its weapons just start to be the same thing, but with recolored variants, or maybe there's a part, like say the stock is in a different place, or it's a different type of stock, but it's a gun that looks all the same for the most part, or even functions mostly the same. They don't do a whole lot of variety. We got a legendary larva. They don't have a whole lot of variety even in the weapon department of things. And when it comes to melee weapons, there's not a whole lot there. They mostly have swords. You have the 2, what is it called? It's the frick. Forgot the name. Oh, I need a key. Augments. The augments that you give yourself give you some extra unique weapons. Once again, the laser whip and the laser floss and the mantis blades. It's just still not enough to compare to what Skyrim and Fallout. The other thing you have to realize is not only is there so many melee and guns in Fallout, and then so many like different ways to play Skyrim's combat, because you got magic, whether one-handed or two-handed. You got different weapons for one-handed, two-handed, shields, different variants of each weapon, both two-handed, one-handeds, or dual-wielding, or some one-handed weapon and a shield. You got staves. You got bow and arrow combat, crossbow combat. You got shout combat. You got werewolf and vampire combat. There's just a lot more variety to both Fallout 4 and Skyrim when it comes to the combat / variety in weapons department. I think we took care of everything here. I want to get into the safe though, but I have a feeling I won't be able to. And I can't open that door. Ooh, I've got some stuff over here. Okay. We'll have to listen to those later, not right now. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's like if I started mentioning a lot of the, like, what I mentioned with the armor sets, like say the Daedric, Ebony, Dwarven, all that sort of stuff, Elvish armor, all that stuff. There's a variety of weapons for each, both in ranged and melee. And then you got Oh, and there's also summons as well. So there's that. And then when it comes to Fallout, you got plenty of weapons name. I could just pull up my frickin' inventory here. Like, we're not going to talk about Creation Club stuff, of course. But you got from pipe weapons, you got weapons that take 10 millimeter. This is a special variant weapon that you can get in the main game. It's not a mod version or anything else like that. You got railway weapons. You got that Tesla gun. I don't have that on me right now. You got shotguns, more automatic combat rifles and stuff, assault rifles, SMGs. You got revolvers. You got all sorts of handguns in general. You got sniper rifles. They're a variety, and as well as you can just add different attachments to each. I should talk about. I'll get to that when I get to the RPG elements. You'll know soon if you stick watching, or if you watch this any point in time, because this will always be on the channel. You can watch it whenever. It's free. You won't. I'm sure you won't have to deal with ads. I hope not. I freaking hate ads, if you know me, because I am not partnered with YouTube. So, yeah, I think it already beats. And like when it came to Fallout's armor, Fallout's got plenty of armor sets, and there are pieces to each individual body part as well. I'm not going to talk about music because music's more of a preference for which one game, and I do like the Cyberpunk music, but I have to say that I find both Fallout and Skyrim more memorable and stick with me, as well as like even if Cyberpunk happened to come out first, I would probably find it more memorable and stick with me. It's just brilliant, the work that's gone into them, and especially if you watched YouTubers like Ju, he's really talked about the music of Fallout, especially. Geeked over it. It is really good music, though. Oh, gotta giddy up Buttercup. This time. We're not taking you this time. Did I get that, stuff from... here we go. It is hard to see out. Let's see if there's a bench so I can wait out the day. There are chairs. Can I sit here? No? Okay, fine. Sit in my goddamn seat then. I'll sit here and wait out the time then. In my frickin' way. But yeah, they have, like, and I love the cage armors, as well as, like, I love the road leathers and such. I also want to talk about, I'll talk about character customization real quick, because I don't know if I have a section for that, but I do want to talk about it real quick. I also think both Skyrim and Fallout are better in the character customization department. Yeah, that's right. Even though you can customize your genitals and such on your character for create whatever gender. I don't know the other characters in Fallout and Skyrim don't have other genders. Don't gender explain to me. Anyways, but yeah, like with Fallout 4 and Skyrim, even though in Cyberpunk you do have a good range of customizations, you can make almost any celebrity in Fallout 4 for both your male and female, or maybe male and female, who knows, wink. And you can make, besides another thing I found, at least for the console versions, is you can't really have your junking out in public. You will always have underwear over you. So, yeah, if you wanted to just walk around and disappoint people. Also, people don't react to you realistically if you're naked. So, yeah, that's interesting. Where people in Skyrim will tell you to put some clothes on and stuff, or in Fallout 4 is like, please put some clothes on. Do you like letting it all hang out? And there's a lot of that interaction that Cyberpunk doesn't have, and I'll get to that later too. When it comes to the customization as well, you've got, and Skyrim is obvious because not only do you have multiple races you can customize, but a plethora of where's this stupid? Just die already. There we go. A plethora of customization options to each race as well. So it's already got Cyberpunk beat there too. Now, enemy variety. When it comes to Cyberpunk's enemy variety, you have humanoid / robot enemies, or, you know, the equivalent of synths or replicants if you're a fan of Blade Runner. Then you got more of that, but maybe a different gang. Then you got more of that, but a different gang. Maybe some big guys. Kind of tanky guys. Oh god, not freaking stinglings. And then you got maybe mech. And the game's really only got like 3-4 boss battles in whole. There's not a whole lot of boss battle variety. If there are more bosses, they just recycle a lot of the same stuff the previous bosses did that you do in the story. That's not to say that Skyrim and Fallout aren't going to escape that kind of criticism, but I will at least say they do it a little bit better still. And when it comes to, and then there's police. The police don't function realistically like Skyrim's or Fallout's police do. So they just kind of teleport in still. And then they have drones. And that's it, really. Maybe some robot dudes. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of variety to it, and the AI is not entirely intelligent or fun to fight, honestly. Your gunplay or gameplay, whatever it may be, is only as fun as what you're using it for. And I don't feel like Cyberpunk has that down. It feels lackluster in that department as well. It has a very varietyless setup of enemies, and it's just not going to keep you going for long. I don't know how people think that like Cyberpunk is a game that they're spending so much time with. I can see time with like collecting stuff. Why am I overweight? Well, I mean, I'm fat anyways, but still. Oh, they just said apple juice. I have some apple juice with me. Let's get rid of some of these because they don't have a use. I'm just gonna use them on myself. Oh wait. I want to collect some of these Nuka-Colas so I can display them back at home. Wait, do I have a rad on my? I do have radiation on my health bar, so let's say get rid of that. Use a blood pack.
Remember to redeem all your prize tickets at the Nuka
That.
before you head home. Located in Nukatown, USA.
And those. Anything else? Why did I pick up some duct tape? Why is that with me? I thought I put that away. Interesting. Anyways. I think that's no contest too. The variety of healing items and other items you can find in the world already beat. I don't even need to discuss that. Already beat Cyberpunk on that level too. There's just such a variety of items you can find in the world in general of both games. So we're gonna move on to the perks list. The enemy, like, okay, I'll just say that when it comes to enemies, once again, Skyrim and Fallout 4 haven't beat. Skyrim, you have trolls, giants, mammoths. You got frickin' those frickin' Chorus beasts. I hate those things. Oh, frick. Frick you. Chorus beasts. You got all sorts of stuff going on. You got Falmir, you got Dwemer, whether spider bots or the frickin', you got the bigger Dwemer boss guys, you got the frickin' guys that roll around, the spherical Dwemer. And then you got even different variants in each of the types, like Draugr, for example, you got the frickin' Draugr lords and stuff. And then, like, as you level higher, there's, like, even more legendary versions of dragons and Draugr and all that. There are different versions of trolls, saber-tooths, wolves, whether it's frost or whatever. You got horkers. You got all sorts of different enemies in frickin' Skyrim. That's not even counting a lot of the DLC stuff, which... you do get werewolves and vampires, all that side of stuff. There's just a lot to add there. And then you got Fallout 4. You got different types of humanoid enemies from raiders, gunners. Of course, you got allies too, with Brotherhood of Steel, Railroad. They can even become enemies depending on the faction you choose. And then there is... frickin' a lot of monster-based creatures, too. Like Deathclaws, Yogwai, Stingwings, which we just experienced. We got frickin' bloatflies, bloodbugs, and then there's different variants of each. Feral ghouls. They all fight differently, too, and are animated differently. Super mutants. And they also can have different weapons or they can do different things, like say super mutants can't really use stem packs to heal, or they don't, where a raider or a gunner can. So there are differences even in the variety of gun wielding enemies, or, well, some of them will use different melee weapons, whether two-handed or one-handed. Alright, where is this thing we need to find? Wait a minute. So... Safari, Kitty, Dry Rock. So I haven't secured it yet. I still need to secure the place, so let's keep looking. For things to kill. I'm gonna have to use the bathroom in a bit. I hate that. My bowels are like, oh, screw you can't talk about this stuff right now. I'm going to go through with it, though. So then we're gonna move on to, we've already been on here. We're gonna move on to the, did we actually select his quest? There we go. Yeah, we'll do his little quest thingies so we can get him out of the way. So let's move on to the perks. The perks, like I can show you Fallout 4's for example right now. This is your perk list. I will say another thing is I like not only that there's I like the presentation UI better for the perks. I even like the UI in general for vanilla Skyrim's stuff as well. But the perks actually work for the most part and make a difference, as well as they are very useful, help to build your character up. And I'm not saying Cyberpunks aren't useful, but there are some really useless perks for sure. In Cyberpunk, for example, I want to use the, I still think they haven't fixed it, or corrected it, at least on console versions they still haven't, is the And you gotta keep that in mind. Even though the PC is the master race, if you want your game to be truly loved, there are also consoles to think about too. People do play console games. Don't forget that. I know you want to say PC Master Race. You know I want to say it. But you have to keep in mind that there are still consoles that exist. People still play on them, and it's not just a small majority of people either. So keep that in mind. You can still say your PC Master Race. Just keep that in the back of your mind that, yes, you need to think about that. I think another factor is just the fact they haven't really allowed mods and stuff to be a part of Cyberpunk on console yet, kind of like what Bethesda was able to do with their games. But when it comes to the perks, there's one perk that stands out to me as really bad in Cyberpunk, and that's the one where you're supposed to be able to use somebody as a human shield, kind of like Gears of War, where you can shoot and hold somebody at the same time. You can't do that in Cyberpunk. As well as stealth options really don't matter, and this counts into the RPG stuff. I think stealth in both Fallout and Skyrim actually matter, where frickin' Cyberpunk doesn't. Cyberpunk will ask you to keep somebody alive, and you can just like kill them or kill everybody, and it will not care. It'll still count them as alive somehow.
Time for a little reprogramming.
Employee manual login recognized. Exhibition bypass protocol engaged. Handing over part 3 of this week's safe combination rebooting.
Thank you, sir.
If you've lost your hidden Cappy glasses, additional pairs can be purchased from any
So-
souvenir stand in any of our parks.
Thank you.
You look parched there, stranger. You know what you need? A bottle of...
But yeah, it does have those perks that don't really make a difference or even really work the way they should. Or at least how it's described. Where both Fallout 4 and Skyrim have better perks and stuff that work. Like, and just stealth in general is also better, and I wanted to use that as an example because you can hide bodies.
Oh no, we're not doing this. Let's see if I can make some adjustments.
But yeah, it's very weak in that department as well. I also just like once again the UI and the actual perks themselves, as well as both Fallout 4 and Skyrim have different ways in which you can approach getting said perks. Skyrim, you can just keep doing that thing, like you can jump around, you can shoot arrows at enemies constantly and level up your bow skills, where in Fallout it works very differently in how you level up stuff.
Yeah, I think a little administrative override.
So let's move on, because I want to get to the world. Frickin' Skyrim and Fallout also beat Cyberpunk in this department. For me, you could argue that it's a preference thing, but I honestly think even preference-wise, they still both have better worlds, honestly, in my opinion. Both Fallout and Skyrim have those worlds that have that, I gotta give stuff to my pals here. Both have those worlds where it's like, ooh, what's that over there? Ooh, what's that over there? Where Cyberpunk, you got boring-ass generic city to me with very little ooh-ah here and there. Same with the desert areas, the more open areas. Most of the stuff you find are cars, and once again, those very few, and cars aren't even that fun to drive unless you got the flying mod, which once again, like I said in the description below, that can only last for so long. Yes, I am. And let's get rid of some of these frickin' things. There we go. But yeah, like, I just never found that feeling in the game in general. 60. That's 44, yeah. Here, hold on to that as well. I just never had that for Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk got, oh wait, I need you to hold the other stuff as well. I think there's junk you can hold on to. Yeah, hold on to these, please. Hold on to the sodas, will ya? There you go. And I never found it an interesting world to explore. I want to go further into that. I was going to save this, so we're getting into the RPG side of why they are better RPGs than Cyberpunk. So first off is the way the world interacts with you and the NPCs of that world, said world. So when it comes to the world and the NPCs in it, they are much more lively and interactable, memorable, and just better in general, even if Cyberpunk came out first once again, in the way that it is now, in the state that it is now. It's not better by miles when it comes to that stuff. A lot of stuff it does much weaker than both Skyrim and Fallout 4, and that's why I'm using them as examples, because people always make fun of Skyrim or Fallout 4. It's the cool thing sometimes even too, which I hate that, because even Cyberpunk thought it was the cool thing to hate on their game. No, their game genuine. I think there was genuine cool to hate on Skyrim and Fallout, where yours was hated because it was garbage anyways, and it had a lot of dumb problems. When it comes to it, the world is more. Let's take for example not only quests, but so this is getting more into the RPG stuff. So quests and interactions. We're going to use a Thieves Guild quest real quick, and then I'll get into more of the meat and the bones of why they're better RPGs after this. So, when you do, there's a certain quest that tells you to beat up or to get the money, collect the money from each of the members. Taking your entire outfit, I'm sorry. Each of the members of these stores. And the stores are very lively in these games. You got characters that you know well, like say Karava and Talon, and is his name Talon J? Yeah, Talon J. For the Bee and Barb, it's also got a name, nice name. That's not to say that Cyberpunk doesn't have that, but its NPCs are just mostly meant to be generic NPCs that stand there. You ask them to look at their store, and then the store pops up. It's freaking boring. There's not really much liveliness or interactivity. You don't get to know the characters if they were a part of the world, and they don't interact with you differently depending on the direction you go with some of your quests. And in... Yeah, what did you have on him? Yeah. Okay. But yeah, the freaking, if you decide to beat up, say, Karava to get the gold back, instead of asking Talon J or whatever for information about like her family, and you can use that towards her, her and Talon will freaking hate you the rest of the game. They will talk to you nasty. They will always say, get the hell out of here, get your stuff and get the hell out. Kind of like they're freaking Walter or Jeff Dutto as a Walmart greeter. But they'll just tell you, they'll just be rude to you the rest of the game. They do reflect the funny dialogue, of course, or they'll say like, welcome to the Bee and Barb. But most of the time, they will reflect that new dialogue of them not liking you entirely. And you get nothing like that in Cyberpunk. There's barely anything like that. but it is very lackluster in trying to make it frickin' feel lively in that way. Alright. Subnose. That's another weapon I forgot to mention. There's just too many weapons to mention in general in both Fallout and Skyrim. There we go.
Got it.
And I mean, Fallout stuff like Fallout and Skyrim add stuff like picklocking or hacking. Whoa. Got picklocking, hacking, VAT system combat, all sorts of stuff. Different ammo types that each weapons have, like plasma or laser rifles and stuff. Where Skyrim and Fallout definitely have more unique worlds too that are more lively and more fun to explore. You got more iconic set pieces and locations, more interesting random encounters. I don't think there's barely any random encounters in Cyberpunk, and if there are, they're gonna mostly be made up of the same enemy types because the game already lacks in its enemy types. You don't have those car chases that you've seen in the trailers, and those car chases are very scripted. It's almost like the Sonic Forces of the game. It's just very scripted and linear, and it doesn't really push anything push its boundaries to go any further beyond that kind of stuff. A lot of cutscenes in both do have you standing around and stuff, but when Fallout 4 kind of solves it by having at least different camera angles, where you're still somewhat in control of the game when you're talking to someone. Matter of fact, you can just straight up back away and be like, no, I don't want any part in this. In Skyrim, you could just straight up leave the conversation mid-conversation if you wanted, so you're still somewhat in control, even though there is the standing around talking. But when it comes to Cyberpunk, once you get into one of those situations that is meant to be a cutscene, and it's supposed to be a cutscene of just people standing around, which is honestly really boring and takes freedom away from the player. I understand that they are different. I even said this when the guy made the Fallout New Vegas versus is not as good as Cyberpunk, which is, by the way, no. Fallout is legions above, and by the end of it, the only thing you talked about being better was the story and its message, which honestly, in my opinion, is not enough to say that it's better, as well as it is not better, in my opinion. I think even objectively, I think it is not better because of certain things I'm about to talk about soon with the RPG elements. Oh, I thought it was still alive. Jeff Goldbluming a lot, I'm sorry. I do that. Hey, I was inspired by Jeff Goldblum, come on. Cut me some slack. Anyways, when it comes to the interactions, there's just so many, like, even though NPCs in the world don't really interact with you realistically, they'll say a line here and there, but they still have that thing that, once again, I think Beat of Most Video is still relevant today, and I have to question frickin' what SkillUp said to compare Cyberpunk as a comeback on the same level as No Man's Sky, even though No Man's Sky legitimately really made some big changes, where Cyberpunk really all it did was fix some glitches and say, hey, a new DLC coming. We still want you to buy it with your hard-earned cash, though, so there's a possibility of it being garbage. I'm stuck in these fucking worm things. See, I'm like hardly taking damage too. This dude is strong after a while. And just, oh, frick off. Like, I feel like if I was to make a Cyberpunk world, I would have just been at least if I didn't have that creativity, I would have had those interesting NPCs at least in the world. And I don't feel like the NPCs are interactable enough. You have NPCs that feel brain dead or go to the same vending machine over and over again. It just doesn't have enough liveliness to it. And they start to get really, like, boring, mediocre, and they don't add much to the world itself. Characters feel more lively, you get to know them better, and they're just way more interesting in games like Fallout 4 and Skyrim. They have interesting shops and stuff, interesting interactions. What I was about to say, too, is if you do that quest with Karava and the others, they will at least not be assholes to you. So that's a good thing. So there are differences in the ways the characters will talk to you and stuff, so keep that in mind. You don't really get any of that in Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is very lackluster in those departments. So now we head to the meat and bones of it, the RPG elements. What makes them better RPGs? So RPGs can... So also I should talk about the romance and companions. Skyrim and Fallout already win. Like, even though you get sex scenes, even though they're, depending on what version of the game you're playing, the sex scenes have terrible textures, so you can't tell what's going on most of the time and stuff. But the companion, there's just a more variety to the companions in both games, and even though Skyrim is lackluster in that character interaction stuff, at least dialogue-wise, there's still a lot of character interaction, though. In ooh, I like your outfit, or lady, or not assuming your gender splaining to me. Okay, you're a lady. At least I think. Somebody's gonna gender splain to me in the comments. I'm using that now for now on, by the way. I told my friend that I'm gonna just use that saying for now on to make it so people feel a little bit cringy about themselves whenever they start that kind of crap up. Because now they're cursed by the word of any day, gender splaining. Ooh, Mr. Gutsy Mob. But it'll make them cringe and want to die inside because they realized, oh crap, I'm doing that stupid thing. That stupid but also rude, not really put a whole lot of thought into it thing that they say. I will take your pre-war money though. Sorry, I gotta take it. But when it comes to the romance and character options, there's a more variety to the characters you can romance in both Skyrim and Fallout, but also, like, that's really where the only changes in Cyberpunk are when it comes to the dialogue and the direction things can take, because the only direction is you have a different love interest, and there's not many of them in Cyberpunk, so that's it. Really. The dialogue options don't really matter or make a difference. You can say a different thing and still have it go the same direction for the most part. It really doesn't have a whole lot of variety to any kind of directions it can take. And really, the only effects you'll have is the endings and the beginnings, but you still are on very much rails sections, like the car rides or the car chases, and you'll mostly experience those entirely the same every time you replay. The beginnings can only be new for such a short period of time because there's only 3 different beginnings and they're very short-lived. You can only do those so many times before they start to get boring too, or samey. Same with Skyrim. Like, Skyrim doesn't have much different beginnings other than who you choose to go with. And Fallout 4 as well, other than who you choose as your main starting character and who dies. But yeah, like, there's just not a whole lot there that changes. Oh, got here, cowgirl. Oh, I'm carrying too much again. Oh, great. Oh, it says they're under attack now, though. Frick. Well, let's go there and try and see if we can stop it. But yeah, like, I want to get to the final thing, and once again, with the romances, any of the options you have, or things you can talk about the romances, other than certain cutscenes, you also have that same amount of variety with frickin' Skyrim and Fallout. So I don't think that really matters to talk about. I'll defend Green Top. Where is Green Top? Is that this one? Yes, that is this one. So yeah, there's just not enough variety going on or changes there. And as well as you can't even bring them back to your home, where in Fallout and Skyrim you can. They don't go back to your home. There's not much with your home either. Like, you have pets that actually will wander around and be interactable in Skyrim and Fallout and stuff. Where in frickin' Cyberpunk, there's barely any of that. You got a cat that's in a lot of the same strict locations. It really just doesn't add enough. Okay, whoever's... jerks. I'm trying to perfect the Minutemen stuff, by the way. I think they... How are you guys not getting this person? They're just behind a tree. Just walk up to them and beat the crap out of them. There you go. Here, I want you to hold on to stuff for me. But yeah, when it comes to it, there's not a whole lot to the way the world has changed, and that's the last thing I want to get into. Is the world is actually changed in both Fallout and Cyberpunk. Also, the endings of Cyberpunk are freaking boring. Most of them are either people sitting around talking or standing around talking. There's only one, like, real ending that has you actually walking around doing stuff, but it's still very mediocre. And kind of a sucky ending, honestly, too. The endings are just very underwhelming. And even though Skyrim and Fallout mostly have the same endings, depending on the faction or whatever you choose, those factions actually make a difference, though, because they affect the world and who you see in it. So, for example, I can go to Diamond City. I chose the Brotherhood of Steel to side with. There are some Brotherhood of Steel members now in Diamond City wandering around. And you will see more of them in the open world and stuff, as well as Liberty Prime is up and running and stuff. So they changed the world and who you see wandering around. You will probably still see Railroad or Institute here and there, but there's way less of them, and they're enemies with you now. or more of enemies than they were before, so to say. But there are major differences that they do make in the long run, that there are actual characters now in different locations that make a difference in who you choose. There are also entire companions, quest givers, and important characters of the story and plot that will end up gone and dead forever and for good. That's a big difference. You don't really have much of that in Cyberpunk. The different factions you choose, the different locations, like, say, choosing the war in Skyrim, for example, if you attack certain places, certain jarls or stewards or whatever and guards will be replaced by new guards in some of those locations. That will make a difference in the way the world is, as well as who's exploring around the world too, and who will attack you on sight. But also the different Jarls and stuff, as well as some of those important characters, like, say, Jarl Bulgra, for example, could be gone for good, or you can't interact or see them ever again, really. So there are major differences that your effects on the world make in all of those games compared to Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk doesn't really have any of that kind of effect on its world. Its world stays mostly the same as it was. And I don't even think you can play the game after the ending anyways, so you wouldn't feel that effect either way. I never found many of the characters intriguing or as interesting as any Skyrim characters, both companions and quest givers and so on, or important characters of the story, because a lot of the characters are either unlikable jerks, like I can't believe Johnny Silverhand and V are both written as either stern characters or just asshole characters. That's the most of their personality gets. Even dialogue options, even though Fallout 4 and stuff suck at their dialogue options, there are still differences and choices that can be made, both in side quests and even main stuff. Say you beat one of the either Imperials or Stormcloaks in the war, and you're supposed to have that meeting at that council with the Greybeards. Like, that could probably change entirely. Like, if you decide to side with someone, I'll have to experiment more with that. But if that's a thing, then that's a big difference to think about too. Let's see, is this place needing anything? I'm gonna check this place out. It says they're unhappy. I don't know why they're unhappy. Oh, one of their turrets broke. Both their turrets broke. That sucks. It says they still have plenty of defenses, though. Well, I know how to fix that, honestly. Let's place a marker on them. Go back to Sanctuary. Oh, it says there's somebody new at Sanctuary. But yeah, like, that they actually affect the differences in the world, as well as you'll see certain cities may be in destruction too, depending on where the war hit. Like, say, you'll see Whiterun in damaged by your actions. There's a Tesla gun with that. Yeah, the role-playing elements actually make a difference and matter on the world, and there are changes in the way dialogue can set up. Like, even though it's garbage in Fallout 4, it at least makes some differences here and there. There are some differences that can happen, or it is very straightforward. There's a Vault-Tec guy.
You know what? Since we talked, I'm feeling sweat.
I thought I was able to make him do a job. I know I can on Xbox. I don't know why it's not working on PS4 though. Maybe I have to wait for a certain point or something. Yeah, I know I can't run now. I just need to take care of this. Hey, that you have to freaking do all this crap just to freaking fix this. These stupid turrets. I'm just taking all of the junk. But yeah, like, there's actual differences in the world that are made by your actions and who you choose to side with. And it has huge repercussions to characters and the world itself. As well as, like, I haven't even gone into, like, the blades or the killing of Parthenax, whichever you choose, as well as the fact that most of your companions you put in the blades you can never have join you on your adventures ever again. Which is just crazy to think about. Okay, where is this place? It's over here. Okay. And they just have plenty of quests and other variety of options. I find the quests not only more memorable and iconic, and even if there are fetch quests you want, like quests you hate, it's nowhere near how boring I found a lot of the gigs, or not so memorable. Once again, even if Cyberpunk came out first, in the state that it's in, it still would be very lackluster in comparison to what Skyrim and Fallout 4 somehow feel like they're ahead of their time. They have more lively... Oh my gosh, they're all up and running now. I didn't even have to do anything. Well, you can take all the junk. There you go. I'll just have you marked forever so that I know where the junk is. Oh, wait a minute. Ada.
Hey.
I need to give them the junk you are holding on to. No? Do you have junk on you? But yeah, there's actual differences in the NPCs. You have more home variety, as well as you can have kids too, and Skyrim and stuff, and Fallout 4. Well, not really kids in that, but you know what I'm saying. There's still a lot more variety to what you can have in that freaking game. There are other things I could talk about with both. I think this was enough. Like, Cyberpunk's not the only game that I'm going to do this with. I want to do this with Outer Worlds as well, because Outer Worlds is very lackluster too. I've come back and replayed both these games, Cyberpunk and Outer Worlds, to give them chances, and every time I replay them, they either get more boring to me, or they don't have that oomph to them that I want or need that really gets me into them. My first playthrough was honestly pretty good of Cyberpunk, but every time I returned to Cyberpunk, I couldn't find reasons to keep playing. Like, I still had a lot of the same things and such that I would on the first playthrough. There's not really differences there, or differences in factions or who I choose and how the world is overall affected by it. So I just did the different factions. I would personally replay just for the different factions alone to choose, or the different war efforts, like who I choose there, and whatever quest givers come with that. Like, there's just much more variety there. And I know I played through more of the Brotherhood of Steel on Xbox, and I noticed that they wanted you to kill even more important NPC characters. Like, they want you to go out there and hunt down Virgil, which was important to your efforts of getting into the Institute. He was an important character, and they want you to kill him. So there's some really important, huge elements to both Skyrim and Fallout that Cyberpunk is clearly lacking in, that both in the dialogue options of Cyberpunk and in the world and how it's affected by your actions, there's really nothing there, and it's much more on rails and straightforward than you think. If it wasn't a glitchy goddamn mess at the start, I still think it would have been really mediocre. I think people would have looked at it as a very mediocre game more so. I think other than stuff like the anime and stuff, the reason people look at Cyberpunk as the reason people probably look at Cyberpunk the way they do now, as well as since it started in a bad state, the worst state, it couldn't technically get any worse. I think if it started out without any glitches at all, Cyberpunk would have just been an okay experience. It wouldn't have been anything special to write home about. I think even Deus Ex Mankind Divided is a better RPG by miles than Cyberpunk. It's even a better Cyberpunk game than Cyberpunk. It's got police officers that actually function. It's got a world and NPCs you can interact with and are more interactable. I mean, if you can go up and throw boxes at them and punch them in the face, then yeah, knock them out and crap like that. Like, that's pretty interactable. So there's just much, even though it's a smaller world, it's just more lively and interesting than Cyberpunk's. Cyberpunk's not nearly as interesting to explore and interact with. It's very lackluster in those departments, and it's lacking in its creativity, its variety. I just feel like it needs to be a much more creative game because, once again, those variety subjects I talked about in the beginning of this video, it is very lackluster and it sucks. It's got that, and when I was talking about the world, it feels like something like GTA's world or the world in real life where there's like this big dirty city and there's just a bunch of assholes walking on the street or people that won't interact with you realistically or will just look the other way. And don't have a day-night cycle, which is another thing is NPCs don't like to go to bed and crap, or some of them don't even move from their spots in Cyberpunk. They're just stationary for the most part. Or they just disappear out of existence. Even traffic doesn't interact realistically. If you block their way or crash into their car, they don't get out of their car and threaten you or even beat you up and take you out of your car. And when they cower, it's the same goddamn cower animations you see in like Witcher, but worse because everybody's doing it anyways. And once again, store NPCs are barely alive. Most NPCs, I think, are just hollowed out robots, more robotic than the synths and robots in Fallout 4. Without the intelligent part, they're not. They are just artificial. They're not the intelligence. They are just called A. At least Fallout and Skyrim have the AI. They have that intelligence because they programmed actual things for those AIs to do. And I think because there's like kind of weight to the movement, especially in Skyrim, and the characters of Fallout, they feel a little bit more lively, their NPCs, where there's more of a looseness to some of the NPCs in other video games. Maybe not all video games, but there's kind of a looseness. When even Watch Dogs Legion has a more lively open world that have day and night cycles, they go to bed, they have jobs, all that sort of stuff. That's just embarrassing because that's another game that was a glitchy goddamn mess on launch. And even that game got it right. That's just sad. Honestly, Watch Dogs Legion has more impressive stuff. Like when that DLC with Aiden Pierce came out, the fact that you can have Aiden Pierce in your game at the beginning, traveling with you, and he has all sorts of unique dialogue. He kind of feels like Lucifer and Inigo. I hope I spelled Inigo's name in the description below and right, because if I didn't, you can correct me. It doesn't matter. I suck at it. I don't remember how his name is spelled, honestly. But yeah, there's just much more interesting variety, NPCs, and more as well as the RPG elements actually matter in both Fallout 4 and Skyrim, where they're called the baby RPGs of their series. They're honestly still stronger than something like Cyberpunk, and I would even go out of my way And I will make that video soon in the future to say it is even stronger than Outer Worlds. Once again, I do want to get to that video someday. So I think that's everything I gotta say on that. Did I put my junk away? Yeah, I did. And we will pick this up on probably a vibe stream, honestly. Let's teleport back to where I need to go. Cause yeah. Nuka World. So yeah, I just find Cyberpunk a really uncreative, not so lively open world. And I honestly, after a while, especially replaying it, it gets more and more boring, and things to find get very lackluster. It'll be funny. I hope that the DLC for Cyberpunk is good and works, but if it does come out like a glitchy mess again, they're going to have to make another anime for people to get suckered in. Even though people should not be basing the game on the anime's success. The anime is successful on its own merits, not the game. Yeah, the game is nowhere as good as both the anime or even the comic books and stuff. It sucks that people think that, oh, the Cyberpunk game must be great then. And then there's like stupid videos claiming like, oh, Cyberpunk's better than Fallout New Vegas. It's on my top 5 list or whatever of most played and most favorite games on all of Steam, even though there are like thousands of goddamn games on Steam. So you're saying it's better than all of those too, you idiot. Did not put a whole lot of thought into that, did ya? It's freaking it's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, honestly. That guy did make a really well edited video. Like, his videos are definitely way better quality than any of my videos, honestly. But man, when it comes down to something like that, that is a giant flaw and really stupid at the end of the day when you think about it. Because goddamn, that is stupid. It's almost like he put a lot of effort into everything else but that gigantic plot hole in his frickin' discussion. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, got something informative, or maybe there's a perspective you have you can put in the comments below. I don't know. Comments, like, share, subscribe. I will see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this nonetheless. Let's hope there's nothing. Oh, here we go. But yeah, like, that's everything I have to talk about with that. That is a lot of goddamn tickets. That's a large pile share. Thank you, Jeff Goldblum. That's what I would like to say about Cyberpunk. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next video. Oh my goodness. Goodbye and have a awesome rest of your day, and stay cool because this weather is hot as hell.